guys. I think we are live. Yes, we are. We are live. Yeah. Welcome to the Kenya Updates live show, guys. Welcome again. This is Maureen Wangati, your host, and I'm here with Susan Mathai, our guest, who's always online, and she's our lawyer and our mediator. Yeah. And she's also a trainer. So if you have any work for us, don't forget to include us. Yeah. So I'm an evaluator by profession. I've worked with Susan many years, and I've known her actually for a long time. Don't ask me how long, but let's not get into that. So welcome, Susan. Yeah, to the show. So today's quite an interesting day. It's a different day from most other days. And first of all, I want to say apologies for not uploading the edited version of last week's show, which is still going to go up this week. So today we're talking about astrotourism and the what is being implemented by the Kenya Tourism Board. They're marketing the fact that we now are kind of like what do we say, that we have a new product. They have a new product because of the moon. The moon has given them a new product, and apparently the moon is a she. I didn't know that, but from African mythology, apparently it is a she. So today is a very unique day, and unfortunately it's also linked to a day when a lot of people do a lot of bad things, such as poaching. There was an article in 2018, yeah, by the Rhino, the Save the Rhino Foundation. It's an NGO. There was a guest blog on Friday 27th July 2018 that they brought attention to the unusual lunar effect, the blood moon. Yeah. Well, they said that while most of us are staring up into the copper red phenomenon that brightens the sky and with awe and wonder, unfortunately, we should actually consider the tireless rangers for whom the event can actually be an entirely different experience. So what happens is that apparently the Kenya Wildlife Rangers experience a time when there is heightened danger for wildlife poaching. Okay, they say that the advent of things like full moons brings with it intense period of high alert, and extra vigilant is paramount during these periods. So they said that during the full moon in May 2017, 9 fresh rhino carcasses were found dead and dehorned at the Hulue Folozi Park in South Africa. That's in South Africa, actually, yeah? And 8 of them were killed during a September event, again in 2015, during a supermoon, event in 2015, yeah? They also said that, let me increase, first of all, right, I can hardly see. Blood moons are specific type of lunar eclipse in which the full moon passes directly behind the earth and into its shadow. And so what happens is the earth absorbs the blue light, and the rest of the light bends, that's what they say, into the earth's the red light is least affected by the bend, except for the blue light, and it causes the moon to take on that ominous tone of red. Okay, so it's been long thought that poachers take advantage of such events, and it was noted that increased deaths occur in the days surrounding this monthly phase. Brighter skies bring with them improved nighttime visibility, eliminating the need for unnatural light sources such as torches, which may give away poachers' positions. Okay, so apparently, while we're looking up into the sky, we should also know that this is also a heightened season for poaching. So they say the supermoon can be up to 30% brighter than when the moon is at its furthest point from the earth. Okay, so they say that while the link between the lunar phases and poaching is clear on the ground, there's very little research that is available on the relationship between rhino poaching and the lunar calendar. So they were studying the behavior of poachers, and they said that studying the behavior of poachers is fraught with difficulty and highly dangerous. A recent study stated that patterns of illegal activities are important in solving the poaching problem. So you guys, man, they are approaching the whole issue by studying the behavior of poachers. And my question was, why don't they study the behavior of the animals? why suddenly are they able to, find so many carcasses of animals? How is it that they're able to trap these animals and unalive them? How is it possible for that to happen? And I came across quite an interesting video of a lady called, I believe her name is Wairimu. Let me find her right now. Let me see if I can find her. Yeah. So I would like to share this with you. It's in Gikuyu language, right? But I'll translate it for you guys to some extent. I think it was quite interesting. So let me share it with you. Today's a different day. Not every day has to be the same, eh? Yeah. So let me see if I can find that. Wairimu. Let me see here. Yes, here we go. Susan, tell me that you can see it, yeah? You can see it? Okay, there we go.
Rhino na Gikuyu etagwo huria kana mweri wa kimakia niguo uroko tuko na riu ri imakagia rhino na Gikuyu etagwo huria.
Okay, so she says that this is the month of Kimakio. The Kimakio means the month of fright, the month of wonder. And what does it frighten? It frightens rhinos. This is in Gikuyu tradition.
Kana munyi, kana dinoa.
So these are the names of the rhinos that she's mentioning.
Mweri wa kimakia dinoa.
So this is the month of Kimakia dinoa. So this is the month where the rhino is frightened. So she says that this month actually shows the beginning of a new, new beginnings. This is a month of new beginnings. And she says that this beginning can be either good or it's bad. And as you know, this is African mythology. This is Gikuyu mythology.
Anake a mbuto citũ mamenyaga kana nĩ megũthiĩ gũtaha kana nĩo megũka gũtahwo.
So this is the time when the young warriors believed that it's their time to go out and hunt, or this is the time that they will be hunted.
Ũgĩkũyũ nĩ athiaga agethahũra na maĩ maratherera, ririkana maĩ ma rũĩ kana maĩ maratherera.
This is the time when the Gikuyu would go and bathe themselves in running water, in a place where there's running water, not where there's still water, for example, where they had wells. So this is the one time that people would go and bathe themselves with running water.
Onai ũmũthĩ ũyũ nĩ tũkoragwo na maĩ ma kuma ithima-inĩ, kwoguo bata nĩ matherere wĩthahũre. Na rĩu wethahũra watuĩkaga mũndũ mwerũ, ũkariganĩrwo nĩ kĩrĩa ũrekaga harĩa kabere na ndũgagĩcokere ongorwo nĩ kĩũru.
So the significance of bathing in running water, maybe in a stream, is that you are starting over again and that you're getting rid of negative energy and you're starting new positive energy. All the bad things you did in the past, now you don't do, you determine not to do them again in
future.
Angĩkorwo nĩ kĩndũ
kĩerũ ũrendaga kwambĩrĩria rĩu nĩ hĩndĩ ũkwambĩrĩria na ririkana atĩrĩrĩ oro wega nĩ ũrĩ ũru thĩ ĩno nĩguo ĩhana.
So she says that in this world there is a balance of good and evil, and for that thing that you had planned to start, this is actually your time to start. This is what the Gikuyu believed, that the blood moon was a period, this lunar month was associated with new beginnings, where you had an opportunity to start over your life. If there was something, maybe a new business you want to start, this would be the right time. But she also says that there's a balance always between good and evil.
Kwoguo hĩndĩ ĩno nĩguo ago arĩa oru arogi mapasta marĩa moru marĩa mamũrutaga ma sacrifices andũ oru nĩguo mekaga maũndũ mao magongona ma kũnina mũndũ.
So she also says that this period is also associated with negative energy from people who are religious leaders or people who are witch doctors and people like those. This is when they do all their nasty stuff during the blood moon period.
Mwene nyaga ũkamwĩra atĩrĩrĩ awa ndagũthaitha reke mwambĩrĩrio wakwa mwerũ ũkorwo wĩ mwega, ndagũthaitha reke thũ ciakwa citikanyite, reke thũ ciakwa citikanyone.
So this is where now you go to your God and you say, Mwenenya God, that is our God, our Kikuyu, that's how we used to address our God. So we'd say, our God, protect me from evil. Don't allow the evil spirits to see me or to hear me or to find me. Protect me from evil.
niguo kiambiriria koguo wonanagia kiambiriria na hau ha uru ndakwira ririkana mweri ni mutumia ngatha.
In the Kikuyu tradition, apparently, according to Kikuyu folklore, the moon was a feminine energy. It was a good female, a woman. Mutumia Gada means a hardworking woman. Yeah, a good woman.
Na kaundu kau no uthie wikire uthuthuria ndanakwira mweri ni mutumia. It's a woman. She's a woman. Riu ri ni maiguaga uru muno mweri watuika wa kimakia thinwa tondu wa riri monaga tari uru wokira mweri, monaga ni uru woka he mweri, riu makanjia kurira makiuragia mwene nyaga atiriri niki mweri waku tugwo ni uru.
So many women traditionally did not actually like the period during this the eclipse, and they believed that it was associated with negative energy, and they would cry to God and ask, why did you bring this upon us?
Na hindi yo niguo mekuga atiriri he ehereria mweri kiundu kiu na ithuĩ ngoro he ũru gũtũtũnga twehererie ũru ũcio.
So the women would pray that any evil against the moon should be removed from the moon, and ourselves as well should be protected. So women would pray for protection for themselves and also for the moon, asking Mwenenyaga to remove all that from the moon.
Wonai na gwithahura ni gwithambia na mai matherere kuma mutwe nginya maguru o uguo tu na ugatiga kiria kiuru angikorwo ni kindu kiuru urekaga kana angikorwo ni andu oru urari nao kana bad people around you, bad energies ugacieheria ugacitiga na thutha ukambiriria kiambiriria kieru.
So this is your time to renew your strength and to renew who you are associating with, the company that you keep. Check the company that you keep and start again. So basically, this is a period of new beginnings. I won't play the whole thing because it's a bit long, guys. Yeah. I just thought to share that because it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective, you see. And she talked about this month being the month where that actually frightens the rhino. Yeah, it frightens the rhino. And you see, the first thing I shared with you is that the Rhino NGO has found so many rhinos being unalive during this period. Why? Because the rhino actually, she continued to say that the rhino chases after the moon because it thinks that it's a fire. It associates the moon with fire when it's red. So you'll find that a lot of wild animals will be running away because of fear and because it's bright, so they can be easily seen. So I thought it was just something interesting to share with you guys, a little bit off topic from the things that we normally do before Susan gives us her updates. Susan, did you see the blood moon?
Yeah, I saw the blood moon right from outside my. I just stepped outside the house, and it was really clear from where I was. Just to comment about the rhino. I don't know whether anybody has watched The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a very old movie, and one of the things is the character of the rhino. It sees a fire and it rushes over to stamp it out. I don't know whether that is related to it. They don't like fires, so they put them out. They sense the danger of the fire, so they'll come and just stamp them out. So probably, that fiery look, like you're saying, of the moon, or the sense they get, maybe something to do with their eyesight as well, because rhinos don't have good eyesight at all. They don't have good eyesight, so that could be one of the issues. And it's interesting that she said that the rhino is the one that is most affected by the the blood moon. For sure, it's very bright, so it makes sense to me that the bad people would be out, because they can conceal themselves without drawing too much attention to themselves. They don't have to use a torch or put on the lights, because they can see just with their eyesight. And By the way, even though it's bright outside, people are in their homes asleep. I mean, because during the day you go to work, at night you go home. So people's behavior doesn't really change much, but except those who have intentions of maybe doing other things or using the moon for different things. Again, I think in many cultures, the moon itself is like a calendar. It's a way of telling where we are in a month. So it has various, it's significant in various ways. And I think various communities, apart from the Kikuyu, the moon, which is a her, I think even in English, if you read poetry and stuff, I think the moon is referred to as a her. The moon and its different phases have different significance, different significance in different, depending on the community you come from. So yeah, it was really beautiful just to see it. There's some photographs which are going around on, I hope you'll be able to show some photos of it when you're doing the editing. Yeah, I hope you'll be able to include. So talking about, you're muted, can't hear you. Or I just want to say something about the tourism.
I was going to say yes, absolutely, about the photos. I even have some photos I wanted to show as we are speaking. But anyway, you
Yeah,
can continue talking. I'll look for them and put them up if I find them.
yeah. So yeah, in fact, Kenya, a lot of people have gone to Samburu. Apparently, that's where the sky was clearest. So we have a lot of tourists who have come to see the blood moon in Kenya. So it's already started. Yeah, so they're saying they're really excited about seeing it. They can't see it in their countries because of the clouds. The skies are not clear, but here the skies are clear, so they're able to see it. And I think we should. It's something that you see maybe once in your lifetime. You may see once in your lifetime. I don't know, is it once a year or once? I'm not sure what the frequency is, but it's not. It's a rare sighting to see the blood moon. So people get excited, and I don't think we should miss out on those rare opportunities. If you can have a look, and it's something that you can say that's an experience I had. I observed something that was rare, and it's quite exciting to see.
Yeah, so that's that about the blood moon, guys. That was not all I had to share with you today. Also, now we're going to talk about another issue that was a little bit different from the blood moon issue is the issue of the country and the fact that there are a lot of people who are concerned about the cost of living and also the economy and the fact that the economy of Kenya, we've been seeing a lot of people complain about the fact that despite the fact that the macroeconomics seems to be showing that the economy is doing well macroeconomically, on the micro level, at the household level, it's completely the opposite situation. And the worry about diasporans is that their children do not have the same attachment to the country as their parents, the original diasporans, the first generation diasporans have. So the first generation diasporans will be remitting monies to their families in the form of what they call black tax. And they talked about the fact this year that remittances hit 225 billion in 6 months. And there was one lady that I was following. Her name is Waiderera Gikuyu. I think she's in Germany, and she was talking about the irony of remittances and the bitter truth that the new generations of Kenyans abroad may not actually be remitting any money into the country in the near future, and therefore the government considering remittances as part of policy could be something that is very short-lived, yeah? Because despite the fact that Kenya's diaspora remittances are soaring and hitting record highs, and politicians are busy celebrating as if it's a win, or it's actually could be a sign of a deeper crisis, yeah? And so I thought that was quite interesting, her perspective on this. and the fact that the diaspora kids may not actually share the same attachment to the country or even feeling to the country, because in fact they may actually have paid the price of not having adequate finances abroad, because their parents are saddled with the responsibility of caring for their families with the monies that they earn, and also spending time with their families is also limited because their parents are working long hours, and so they might actually have a different sense. They might actually not like the idea of remitting to Kenya, a country that also doesn't seem to appreciate the sacrifices and investments of their parents adequately enough. So they may actually be looking towards things like liquidating their assets of their parents who have been investing, they've been investing in Kenya, liquidating assets that their parents have been investing in Kenya, sorry. And if God forbid, somebody said, if God forbid something happened to me, my children have zero connection to Kenya. And I see no sense in me trying to force it on them. So their inheritance looks more like a curse. This is in response to what this lady was talking about, Another person also, in response to what this lady was saying that many Kenyans have chosen to return and others have chosen to stay. However, living abroad doesn't look also very attractive, especially right now, because it's not that they said that they're not sure whether it's better to live in a perpetual state of alertness due to racism, being called out, or not belonging, or living in barricaded fortresses that we call our homes in Africa, grappling with bad leadership but living free. So the idea of, the way that we build in Africa, in Kenya, for example, we have our house, and then, or in Zimbabwe or any other country, then we have this big wall around us. These are what they're referring to as barricaded fortresses that we call our homes. So we come back to Africa, we live in these barricaded fortresses, but we have poor leadership, and then we say we're living free. And yet the West is no longer as welcoming to the immigrants. So according to this person, they believe that it's better just to push for better leadership and management of national resources to create jobs and improve the lives of citizens. In my view, if you were to ask me my points, is that the choice is really dependent on how we, how deep our pockets are, number one, whether we're able to, physically relocate, because I've been watching quite a few TikTok videos and watching one particular man specifically talking about the poverty of diasporans in the diaspora. A lot of people are actually living with very little money here in the diaspora, like here in the UK. A lot of black people, a lot of African people are struggling. They're literally struggling, especially now with the high cost of living, and therefore they have very little extra money to, disposable income to share. And what will happen is that in the future, first of all, like in the US, you can see that they're also taxing that income. Okay, they're taxing any sort of remittances, and so that will discourage a lot of people from sending money. And where you have higher standards of higher cost of living, you also have people feeling more insecure with their finances. So a lot of people will have to make a choice to either return or to remain. So we should not be surprised that quite a few Kenyans may not even be able to return home, or Africans may not be able to return home, that they will decide to keep their investments where they are, and the diaspora remittances that the government is waiting for and considering to be the highest form of foreign exchange for the country may not be something that the government should actually be looking to consider as part of their policy, really, at that level of policy. Yeah, I think it's a false sense of security with diaspora remittances, and these are her specific views. Yeah, you can go and watch this lady. I believe she's on TikTok, quite an interesting person to watch and listen to. Yeah, but it's the whole idea of that dependency syndrome that we have, that we literally even monetize our own people. Instead of creating jobs and industries and creating opportunities for our own people, we start to depend on the remittances of people who are living in the West and who have less and less opportunities, especially if they don't have their papers intact. And if our governments, as you can see now, for example, Nigeria, America is no longer giving visas to Nigerians. And if they do, they're canceling them. To the point where Nigerians are trying to travel to America. When they get to America, they get deported at the gate and sent back to their countries. This is a situation going around. And you see, if this happens to Nigerians, it will soon be happening to us. It can happen to any African. So nobody should say, oh, Nigerians deserve it, or because, they brought it upon themselves. This is of their own making. That's not really true. Really, what's happening, what we see there is we have a lot of very highly educated Nigerians in America, many of them even here in the UK. And most of the hospitals, the nurses and doctors are Nigerians. Yeah, majority of them. The ones who, because they came here from Africa long ago, they got the education and now they're working, for example, with the NHS. So there's a friend of mine whose relative was admitted to a hospital here in the UK, and shock on her when she got there, she thought she was somewhere in a ward in Nigeria. Because like everybody was Nigerian. The doctors are Nigerian, the surgeons are Nigerian, the nurses are Nigerian, the people who clean the place are Nigerian. I mean, literally, lots and lots of African, either African, Zambian. So this is the situation here. Indian. This is the situation here in the UK, man. You go to the hospital, you think that you're in a hospital in Africa when you're here in the UK. So the same thing in the US. So when they get rid of Nigerians at the gate, these are highly educated people, majority of them, yeah? When they get rid of the Nigerians, just know we will be next, or we could be next. So we need to be thinking about how to make our countries livable, and places, where we just decide to live with what we have in our own countries, or we decide to forever stay abroad and give up the whole idea. I have a friend, by the way, if I could give you a story. There's a friend of mine who moved. I was in the US with her long ago when I was doing my undergraduate degree. We were together with her and her family, and they came to Kenya and built a house right here, actually, I think it was in Nakuru. Beautiful home, looks like an American home. Completely beautiful home. Guess how long they stayed? I think maybe 5 years maximum. And they relocated back to America. Because why? Because their children grew up and went back to university, and they followed their kids. They felt that they could not live without their children. So this is another thing that, families are trying their best to try to stay together, and it gets to the point where reintegrating is not as easy as we think, really. Okay, I think I've had my day. I'll allow Susan to speak. I think I've spent quite a bit of time on this. Thank you, guys. Call people to come and watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about over dependence on the remittances from the diaspora. Yeah, I saw that, and it's a lot of money, but things are changing. The young people don't value the same type of investments that the older generation value. So, for instance, the older generation, they want to invest in tangible things like land and buildings and stuff like that. But the younger generation are not interested in that. That is not that's not where they build their investment portfolio. It's normally in things like cryptocurrency and stuff like that, that they're more into that. So even when they're not like their parents who would buy plots or buy a flat here or something like that, a lot of this money that is being remitted back to from the diaspora into Kenya is for investment purposes. It's for building something, repairing this, building your mother a house, that sort of thing. The values of the past are not the ones that you will see. And I think that article, the lady who has made that comment, has really hit the nail on the head, because these remittances are likely to drop, because these young people can continue to invest in what you call it, shares and stuff like that, special funds and stuff like that, without, from wherever they are. Like even Kenyans.
Well. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So it's going to be different. We'll see them, things being different. I remember this conversation I had with a younger person who said, us guys were not interested in land. You guys are chasing land. You have plots all over the place, but we're not interested in that at all. So I think that's one thing. Again, it shouldn't be a surprise that a second generation or third generation diasporan would not feel the same connection with their mother's home, their mother country, as their parent would. Because naturally, even the exposure, when we're being brought up, the values that they were being raised under were probably the ones wherever they're living. The values of Kenya are different, perhaps, from the values in, say, the US. The way we treat seniors, the way we address seniors, the way we do this and that, is sort of different. So they're not the same sort of thing. Again, when you live in the West, you live your focus is on your nuclear family and probably on yourself, because you're living alone, you're looking after yourself and that sort of thing. But whereas in Africa, in most African countries, you can't just say you're looking after yourself. You have to take care of your family. You have maybe people who are depending on you one way or the other, and those guys are on your list. So they have a completely different frame of mind. The world is changing, and like the young lady rightly said, that that's a very dangerous thing for us to clap our hands because of something that is artificial, because literally that is what it is. It's artificial. Yeah. So getting to the news, there's been lots of news, lots of interesting blood moon. So many people have taken photographs from I'll send you some for your editing, from here. I'm sure you'll find others on the internet. Yeah. So what's new? I thought I'd talk about the anniversary. 1 year ago, on the 5th of September, we had the fire at Hillside and Darasha Academy, where 21 young men lost their lives. The cause of it was arson. It's still under investigation. And it's not until the 21st of August that the CS of Interior, Murkomen, said there should be an inquest. The DCI completed the investigations and passed the file to the Office of the DPP, that's the Director of Public Prosecutions, who recommended a public inquest. It's really sad because this is almost a year later and the parents are still waiting for justice. Who's to blame for that? Who has been held to account for it? What are the investigations showing? Why hasn't the matter been brought to court? And they're contrasting it and saying, look, when that MP was shot, within weeks, they had already arrested somebody. So where there's a will, there's a way, and, it doesn't explain why. I mean, the delay is just too much. Justice has sort of been denied. What happens when too much time passes is memories fade. Memories fade. Evidence can get lost. So many things can happen. People may pass away. People with crucial evidence may have passed away before a statement was taken from them, and that sort of thing. The person who was investigating initially was transferred to another department, and another person has come, another person has come, another person has come, and there's so many things that would interfere with the evidence, or even the strength of it. So the parents are still waiting, and sadly we're still having those type of arson attacks instigated by students happening. Just this week, 3 schools in Gatondo South, which is in Kiambu County? Yeah. They were arson attacks instigated by the students. So all the schools now in Gatondo South have been closed. So the children are home. And, this is a big concern, is why would students, what is this pattern of behavior where students are resorting to burning down their schools? And we've had such tragedy like this one of Endarasha, where 21 young men lost their lives. Why, go to those extents? There was even the really nasty one many years ago in Nyeri, where people lost their lives. So why would, what is happening that the young people would think that this is a solution? They're not happy with something and they decide they're going to burn it down. In fact, for me, I find that behavior so scary because it smacks of some sort of like criminal conduct or psychopathy or something like that, because when you decide to burn something down, people will get injured. Even if people don't get injured, the property is damaged. But it's not just been there. There have been a lot of schools closing down because of riots. I know I talked about one school where the children were up in arms because of being overly punished. By one boy was punished so badly by the teachers that the rest of his classmates said, no, this is not right. And it caused, there was a furore. There was damage of property. They broke the windows of the class. But why the fires? This should be investigated. This is something really, really, really serious, I think, because it's such an extreme way to address issues. And it's not really addressing them. It doesn't solve the problem. It creates one. Because at the end of the day, rest assured, your parents who paid school fees or whatever it is are going to be asked to pay for the damage that occurred to those schools. Many of these parents cannot afford that. They are barely affording to pay whatever it is the schools are asking them to pay for. And I'm telling you, these guys are really good at sending children home and saying, no, you have to come back in full school uniform. The parent doesn't have the money. You decide, am I going to buy him new shoes, or am I going to pay the school fees? That sort of thing. They have to choose which one is going to be first. So it's something really tragic, and it's happening, and it's something that needs to be addressed. Again, the questions that are coming out is the issue of accountability. Who's to blame? And that was one of the headliners in the newspapers. Who is to blame for these schools burning down? Of course, the culprits themselves. But who else? Was the school secure? Had it been fire checked? By the when they decided to certify the school as fit for purpose, did they do the proper fire checks? Did they check whether or not they had all the equipment they need to ensure the safety of the students? Was there standard assurance, proper checking, or did somebody pay their way and got it? And then the school owners, again, did they take any shortcuts? Are they liable? What about the teachers? To save time, did they use excessive disciplinary methods to manage the children, like locking them in? Because I'm not sure about whether it's in this case, but the door was bolted from outside. So they couldn't come out. They couldn't run out of the dorm. I'm not sure whether it's this case or another one, but that has happened. And then the Ministry of Education, do they go around to check to make sure that these schools that are operating as they should? What about maybe even the local, the county commissioners and all those people? Are they checking? And what about the parents? When they take the children to school, do they go around and ask, if there's a fire, how do these children come out? How are you managing these children at night? ABCD, those type of questions. We need to ask enough questions. So the Kenya Human Rights Commission and another organization called Elimu Bora Working Group have been trying to help the parents pursue justice. And we hope that something will be done, that there will be an inquest, and we'll find out exactly what happened, how those 21 young men lost their lives. Insecurity, I'm sure you've seen it all over. in the central business district of Nairobi, everywhere. You know, people are so concerned about, you know, you being in the CBD, especially, you know, in the evening. There are issues about it's not well lit, knife attacks, or use of human waste to threaten, you know, that sort of thing. People have been injured. There have been, even if it's not physical injury, it is mental injury because they are completely terrified by their experience, you know, of doing that. And one argument that I saw, I heard that the goons that were released during the protests are still at large. And I heard some Dura Waronge saying, you know, and he predicted, he said, you weaponize groups like those, it's very difficult to recall them, to get them back off the streets. Because what happens naturally, organically, they will form into some leadership patterns. So they have like a command. So they're not random groups, they're actually organized groups. And one of the saddest things is that some of these people who are involved in this are actually minors. So if you can see a minor there, it's not his idea necessarily. He's probably being used by an adult who knows that the culpability of a minor is lower. You know, even if they're arrested for doing things, they'll not be treated for criminal acts. They'll not be treated the same way as an adult will, you know, will be treated. So there have been a lot of arrests that have taken place of some people who of suspected goons, or the ones who have been mugging people in the city center. But it's just a bad picture because you know, for tourists, even for wananchi, you're afraid to go to your offices and work. There's still a lot of people who work in the city center, and there's still a lot of people who have their businesses there. You can imagine now people not being willing to go to shop in the shops in the CBD and its environs. What that is really affecting people's earning capabilities. And of course, as a result of this and the change, you know, you talked about the economy. You know, it's at the micro level, people are not really feeling it, and that's true. And as a result of that, people have had to beef up their security everywhere, you know, everywhere. That is the talk in the estates and stuff like that, is how can we improve security? You can't just walk in. People are putting gates, you know, in a court. You have a gate there. You have to say where you're going and stuff like that, because of the threat to people's lives and to even a loss of property. So that is real. And when we think about the amount of money that is collected from our taxes, you know, and the fact that perhaps the people who are supposed to be taking care of you, like the police, are completely under-resourced. In fact, one thing that Murkomen said, which recently, which I'm not sure what your reaction is to this, but he said that police women, when they're pregnant, they need to get, now they have to start making maternity uniforms for pregnant police women. And there have been a number of reactions to it, you know, because they're saying that, you know, they can't really come to work because they can't fit into those clothes or something. They can't wear their uniforms. So it's affecting the ability to continue to work. Is that really the case? And when you're saying that you want to get the maternity outfits for police women, is it something that we can say is a plus for women? Can we say it's a priority? Can we say, what can we say about it? I mean, it'd be interesting to see what people will think about it. Interesting. That's what he's talking about.
My view about it as a woman might actually be a bit controversial, but my issue is that, I mean, this is a security role, and people are supposed to be very fit, ready to run, ready to pounce, ready to deal with criminals. I don't think that women who are pregnant are really in that position to be that fit. As much as I don't believe in discrimination based on anything for women. I think what they should do is introduce a maternity leave for women, just like other countries. Introduce a 9-month maternity, 1 year maternity leave for women, or 2 years. Yes, with pay.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see, there should be, because you see, the thing is, they're adding to our population, and we need those people. Those are Kenyans. The ones that they're having, somebody has to have the children. And if it's not going to be the men, then it should be the women. Yeah. So women deserve to have at least 18 months if they're in the police force. 18 months. Give them the time to be pregnant, at least 1 year, 1 full year maternity leave. Because you see, I believe that maybe the first 2-3 months, I think they're okay. Then after that, maybe they need another 6 months plus another year to look after to have the baby. So if I was the president, I would definitely, absolutely give women at minimum of a year off. Because I am a woman, and I've seen how, a pregnant police woman is not necessarily the greatest threat to the greatest criminal. And most of these, unless you see they can also work at home, like they can be given different roles that they can work at home. They can answer phone calls, they can do counseling on the phone, they can also do administrative work. There are many other roles that they can play. They can do research work, they can do administrative work behind the scenes also within the police stations. So there's a lot of work to be done anyway. They can be given desk jobs, to do. But I think at the moment right now, our Kenyans are crying out for security. So thank you, Susan, for raising that. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share a video that I actually came across. It's in Swahili, so today's our day for speaking our languages, you people. Unfortunately, tunatumia kizungu sana. Sisi ni watu wa kizungu mingi, So it's good to add a little bit of flavor to show that we are truly Kenyan and add our languages on here. So we're going to share something in Swahili. It's about insecurity, the same thing that people are complaining about actually right now. There's this gentleman complaining about insecurity in the CBD. Okay, let me put it on. Oh, sorry.
Nairobi si kubaya. Central Police Station, Nairobi CBD. Nairobi ni kubaya. Hatujui huyo ACS anafanya kazi gani hapo. OCPD anafanya kazi gani hapo. Inspector anafanya kazi gani hapo. Wale mapolisi wa on duty wanafanya kazi gani Nairobi CBD. Na vijana wadogo sahi wanadunga watu na visu, wananyang'anya watu simu nini. So tunataka security irudi vile ilikuwa. UDA government walituambia watu wa maandamano. UDA government walikuwa wanasema watu wa maandamano ndio wanaribu town. Sasa Nairobi ni kubaya. Watu wanalia. Wakora wameingia town. Tunashangaa wakora wameletwa na kina nani? MCS. Nairobi town ni kubaya. Mlijaribu kutoa Sakaja, lakini ameregeshwa kwa kiti. Nao watu wengine wakishapewa pesa wako na raha. So tunataka security ya Nairobi irudi vile ilikuwa. Central Police Station, hatujui kazi yenu ni gani hapo. Yaani kazi yenu ni kutafuta tu wale ambao wanakosoa serikali wakifanya vibaya. Lakini hiyo insecurity iko Nairobi sahi. Sasa sisi wananchi, sisi ndio tutachukua sheria mkononi yetu. Na hakuna mwenye atatuambia. Nao vijana, watu wa Nairobi watatoka nje. Nao vijana watajua raia ni akina nani.
Okay, let me stop sharing there. Yeah. So basically, this is it. Yeah. So basically, basically this is it. Yeah, Susan, you can go ahead. Like what you're talking about.
So
the people who are responsible for security, that's what that gentleman is asking. the OCBD and the rest of the
Yeah.
officers of the police. We have a central police station right in the center of town, a very big one.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, Susan. Why are they not taking action? This gentleman is saying that Kenyans are gonna, I mean, the Wananchi, the people are gonna have to take matters into their own hands. Yeah, and they're gonna deal with the young people themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because they're using terrible means, and you can see they're stealing even 100 shillings. There's one guy, one of those videos. He was threatened and everything, and he had 100 bob. They went with his 100 bob and his phone. You know, you're robbing people at knife point, and what people need to understand is that the minute you use a weapon, it doesn't matter how much you get from your victim. It's robbery with violence. And the sentencing is very, very different. It's as if it's it's what they call a capital offense. So that you can be, if you're caught with robbery with violence, you can be jailed for life and stuff like that. So what they're doing with the young hi Kat.
This one. Say hi to my people.
Yeah, so
Cats are terrible, I'm telling you, they like attention. Boy.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're saying, we're talking about something important, you guys. Don't worry, I'll edit that one out of the other one video.
Yeah,
This is a
so
live
you
show,
see
so
what
things
happens.
happen. Things happen during live
For-
shows.
Yeah. So when you have minors, they'll be detained at the president's leisure or something like that. That's the type of sentence they'll get. Because of the law, it protects people below the age of 18. They're treated differently when they are in conflict with the law. And but for an adult, you're jailed for life, literally. You can be jailed for life imprisonment if you have been convicted on a charge of robbery with violence, or for an extended period of time, because it's deemed to be a very, very serious offense. So these young people are using weapons, and the minute you introduce that into any assault or anything like that, it becomes a robbery with violence. An assault where you're attempted to steal, or you've actually robbed somebody. Doesn't matter whether you've stolen 100 shillings or whether you've stolen 1 million shillings. It's just robbery with violence. So definitely, the Sakaja angle in that. Remember, during the protests, they were saying that the news was reporting that there were links between him and the goons who were poured onto the streets, the ones who were walking side by side with the police and not being arrested, yet they were holding weapons. They were holding huge sticks. They were holding weapons, and instead of the police arresting them, they're just walking alongside them. So Sakaja's name came up there, and again now he's being linked to the escalation of violence and insecurity in the Nairobi streets. He's the county governor of Nairobi, and so because of his connection with that in people's minds, and as reported, there were also some videos showing the goons themselves saying that it was him who was responsible for them being on the streets. And like I said earlier, it's very difficult to mobilize people to do something and you don't have an exit plan. There should always be an exit plan. So the problem with this whole strategy of bringing these goons is that there was no exit plan to remove them off the streets. So they weaponized this group of people, and they have formed their commands, their systems. It is now for them, it's a means of a way of earning a living, because they were being paid to go and cause mayhem. And now when the protests are not there, they don't have jobs. So now they're creating jobs and going back to, they're continuing to do that which they know. And of course, what they're doing is criminal. Even when they were doing it during the protest, that was still criminal behavior. So it's really, really unfortunate, you know. It's much like introducing, there's the water hyacinth, the story of the water hyacinth that was introduced into Lake Victoria because of some, to deal with something. And then it just started to just spread so much in the lake and became now a problem. So you don't introduce something and it ends up being a problem, because that's exactly what has happened. Use the wrong methods, not being able to show problem solving skills or even leadership skills. And straight away there, you can see this, whoever is responsible for this, any leader who's responsible for this is not fit to be a leader. Under the constitution itself, they're contravening our national values of integrity. They're not even safeguarding the safety of the citizens. And they're there crying. There are so many videos of people who have been threatened, who have actually experienced it. You can see some of the ladies that they're talking and they're completely terrified. They're still, reeling from the shock of that experience of being mugged. And it's truly terrible, a very bad experience. The other big news.
Yeah, Susan, I just wanted to say, there was a lady who talked about her experience when she was inside a matatu. Did you listen to her? She was saying that this guy, this boy came in with his hands full of fecal matter. She had kind of like opened the matatu window, the public service vehicle window a little bit for some air. You know how they are, they get really hot. So she opened it, and one of those young kids, nasty kids, comes in with his, something, his feces that was smelling really, really bad, and he started to demand money. I think she was one of the first people. I don't know whether she was a matatu or what she was in, but he started to demand money, and the lights were not open. And she said the lights were not, I think it could, by the way, I think it was a personal car. Sorry. It was a personal car. And she had cracked her window open, and his hand was inside with the feces. And he had actually threatened to drop it on her or to put it on her. And then he actually saw some money that was lying in her handbag. And he said, I want that money that's in your handbag there. Give it to me. 200 shillings. He gives it to her. Then you see, because her phone was underneath and she had a few bits of money there, Sometimes you need just a little bit of money. Maybe you want to buy something on the road. So he's asked for that 1,500 shillings that was there. He had to give it. There was 1,000 he wanted. She gave it. She just started giving him everything. The last thing, just before the lights, changed to green, was her phone. And she was just grateful that he moved his hand and that she was able to go. But she said the stench that filled that vehicle, I believe it was her personal car. The stench that filled that vehicle, she said it took days to get rid of it. And she was so traumatized by that. This is not normal behavior, you people. I don't know what's going on in town in Nairobi. I have a friend who lives in the coast, and she said there's no way she's stepping into the central business district in Nairobi right now.
Yeah, don't. It's just not safe.
So like you said,
But,
the goons, this issue of not having an exit plan is very dangerous, because literally they have kind of like empowered them, emboldened them. Now they know what it feels like to terrorize, and it's kind of exciting for them. It's a new thing, a new way for them to get money and to get things. They know that they can break shop windows and break shop doors and go in and get clothes and get free laptops and free phones and free clothes and free food. Do you really think, this is something, it's a culture, it's a cultural shift. It's an entire cultural shift. Very serious one. I don't know what they're going to do, because you see, they were working with the police, the same police who were, they were actually giving them security, isn't it?
Yeah.
The police were
They're walking
side
by side.
Yeah. So how can the police now come against them? Because on the other hand, the same police were also seen in some pictures taking laptops and putting them in their car, in their are they not lorries, but into their vehicles,
the police vans.
The Land Rovers. We saw them running with laptops into their Land Rovers. So these are the same goons, they call them goons, these young ruffians. They're the same ones who will actually, they're the same young ruffians who have been saying that they're being used to collect bodies and take them to the mortuary. So they have information. Do you really think that the police are going to come now and stop them? It's a very
Yeah,
tricky, very dangerous situation. It happened,
yeah,
I believe, in
they've
Mombasa at some
created a
point.
problem
They'll have to take some drastic action. It's very bad for our
for
country.
sure. They've created a problem, and they need to address it. And it needs to be addressed quickly. They're weaponizing even younger people for the reason I told you. It is to avoid liability or reduce liability. There are people behind those young children. And it's unfortunate that they're messing up with people's lives like that. They're really messing up with people's lives. Yeah, so the other big discussion has been, of course, SHA is big on discussions. We've talked so many times about it. uh, you know, the ghost hospitals, getting lots of money and stuff like that. That story is just the saddest ever. Um, Affordable housing again, they've collected so much money from the affordable housing money, and they're using some of it to buy treasury bills, you know, because they're collecting a lot. It's 3% per salaried person is 3%. 1.5% is paid by the employer. 1.5% is paid by the employee, and that's on the gross amount. That is it's not on the net. It's on the gross amount. It's like you're being taxed again. And I think I saw a judgment on that, and I don't know why it's not giving any weight, because that judgment said that it is illegal because it's like being taxed twice. Because your income tax is on your gross salary, right? So now they're doing it again now on affordable housing. So SHA is just a mess, continues to cause a lot of despair among citizens. Um, in the political arena, oh yeah, so now we're talking about the victim compensation team. They were sworn in just this past week. Remember, the president constituted a team to deal with the compensation of victims who had either victims of the protests, victims who had some who those who were injured, and those families who lost their loved ones in the protests. So this particular team was set up. They were sworn in. There was a lot of controversy regarding the deputy chair of the team, who's the holder of the position of the Law Society of Kenya chair, who happens to be a young lady called Faith Odhiambo. Initially, she had declined to take up the post, but for some reason, she seems to have changed her mind. She says that she was getting still a lot of calls from people asking, how are you going to help? We have not, how is this going? Can you help us? Can you help us? Can you help us? She was getting a lot of pressure for that, the Law Society was. But on the other hand, she had spoken quite vocally, and as had the Law Society itself, that this particular body was usurping the role of constitutionally instituted bodies, commissions, and that, why should they be doing a job when there are other jobs which have been assigned that work? Of course, there are implications to anything that is done. There are financial implications to them straight away. The people sitting on this board are not, they're people. Let's say they're senior people in society. So she said that she was, people have not been really happy with her agreeing to take up that position. There's been pressure from members of the Law Society. One has even written a letter telling her to step down from her position as the Law Society chair, because she's upholding something that's contravening the Constitution. And as a Law Society, one of our tenets of the Law Society is that we should be upholding the Constitution. And then again, the other thing is, once you get into the fear that once you get into a constitution that has a committee or anything that's been constituted by the president, you're immediately falling under his control. You know, past institutions, we have seen, Kenyans have observed that once they are constituted by the executive, they begin to control what happens there. And for the law society, the impartiality aspect is very, very important. So there's some displeasure there from from law society members, and also members of the public feel that the law society should not be directly should not be sitting on that board. So the role of this particular, she answered what she was when she took her acceptance, when she agreed to be sworn in as one of the people sitting in the committee. She said she wants to amplify the voices of the victims and to ensure that justice is delivered in a timely manner. She said that the minute she feels that the committee is not, or the team is not doing its work correctly, she will step away from it. She assured people that's it. So the work of this particular team is to verify who the victims are, those who died as a result of the protest, or those who were injured as a result of the protest, and then establish a list, and then develop what they're calling compensation standards. These compensation standards, lawyers have some ways of assessing damages when, for instance, in traffic accidents, when people are injured, they sustain soft tissue injuries, or they suffer amputations, or depending on the degree, there's precedent to show about how much compensation should be given for that. There's also formulas for calculating loss of life. So they look at the status or the station of that person, how much income they were earning, if they were the breadwinner, that sort of thing. They look at how old they were at the time of passing, and then there's a formula to calculate what they call life expectancy. And for this type of thing, because of the circumstances under which these people were injured or passed away, they're likely to be what they call punitive damages, which are now record or calculated on a higher scale, so as to intention is to punish. So it's calculated at a higher scale. So they're supposed to develop some compensation standards. So they're saying that we are not usurping the role of the Kenya National Commission or the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. But it's difficult for me when I look at even what they're supposed to be doing, because verifying victims, the police, when they do the investigation, the Kenya National Commission knows through their own systems who was injured, and they have their way of confirming who was injured, because they're the ones giving us the statistics of so many people were injured as a result of the protests. They're saying so many were injured, so many are missing, so many are disappeared, so many were abducted, and that sort of thing. They have that. Then establish a list. They're the National Commission guys are the ones who are best suited to do this work, because they're already in this field. This is their work. They have those figures. Then developing compensation standards, of course, this of course would need the input of those guys, those professionals who are involved in this. There are number, who are involved in getting damages where there's injury or death. So I don't know how they're going to really show separation and without sort of encroaching into other people's work. But we wish them all the best. The National Commission itself said they're happy that it was formed, but we're just hoping all the best for that. So then the other thing is, of course, what we're seeing in the moving and shaking parts of the political arena. We can see that relevance or irrelevance of some of the political greats. We can see them dropping in relevance and others coming up. So for instance, I think as a result, this is my own opinion, and I've read it also and listened to it and heard many people sharing that opinion, is that the Ryla's sort of relevance as a, because of his, or let me not use the word relevance, his impact has been sort of watered down because of the position they took in the broad-based government. In fact, his decision there has affected ODM itself. And then we're finding these splinter groups. So there's even a young group of young politicians. Some of them are in ODM, others in UDA, and they've come together. Wamushomba, then we have what's his name, Babovino, we have Sifuna, and the others, other young people who have decided they're not happy with what their parties have decided about how to handle the status quo, and they're speaking up about it. So they formed like a splinter group. And let's watch this space and see what's going to happen. Of course, Gachagua is going around with his DCP. I saw some elections somewhere was it Nakuru or somewhere, they turned chaotic. People are getting quite emotional already about the politics. There's lots of furore about the empowerment scheme that Kithure Kindiki is spearheading, going around. What is the source of that money? Where does it come from? And that sort of thing. People are really saying, and it's not enough. They're finding it's just a ploy, a game, some mind games that are being played. It's not worth, there's another intention rather than what they're saying. Kindiki also promised the youth, we'll meet all your requests. But of course, we know that is not possible. Of course, and then the big thing again is in the newspaper, we've had this, the spending issue. They're called deceitful spending, headlines of the standard newspaper. Deceitful spending, that's for Friday, the Friday Standard newspaper. And it's talking about how the executive or the state is spending without parliamentary approval. And it's invoking, a lot of the times they're invoking this article 223 of the Constitution, which allows them to make what they call supplementary appropriations, where there's additional money that is required, which is outside what the original budget said. And they said that this is being abused. This section of the Constitution is being abused because it's become the norm rather than the exception. So he, according to Nyakango, the controller of budget, Margaret Nyakango, she has faulted the state over reliance of this particular constitutional provision that allows for supplementary appropriation. And she says that that this also contravenes, the way they're using it contravenes some aspects of the Public Finance Management National Government Regulations of 2015. And she says it means that they are not budgeting well in the first place if they have to keep going, if they have to keep doing the supplementary appropriations. So there's that concern that is there, and we know they're saying that, of course, it's the parliament which are accusing the executive of, going way out of borrowing money or spending money without going through the proper channels. So the parliament is supposed to be the one saying we have approved this budget, but they're just continuing to do whatever they're going to do without involving parliament, or they're doing it without following procedure. Remember, we talked, in fact, Dindi Nyoro has been one of the people who has been raising red flags about some of the things that are going on. I was listening to a tape, to a video, and he was talking about our current budget, our current debt is now at 12.1 trillion. And this is aside from the debt that is owed through the securitization of the 7 shillings on fuel levy. Remember that? And also this Talanta, remember this new fund that they came up with to build the stadiums. These are separate things. So this other debt is currently it's 11.2 plus all these others, which are now in different books. That's how he explained it in one of his talks. So we are getting further and deeper into debt.
Yeah,
and
Susan, I
these
have a clip
issues.
on that one if you'd like me to show it. Of
Yeah,
Dindi Nyoro.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Explaining this to guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the show.
yeah.
Hope you guys are gonna watch it. For those of you who have missed it again today, I'm sorry about that. I hope you're gonna eventually catch on and realize we're on a different platform. Yeah. So Karibu. So let's see Dindi Nyoro, what he has to say to us about this whole issue of securitization. Yeah.
Everything else you see in Kenya in terms of development.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me try again.
Everything else you see in Kenya in terms of development, like even the Talanta Stadium, is also not part of the 12 trillion debt. That is another debt, securitization of the sports fund, where we borrowed 46 billion and will be paying 100 billion in interest rate alone after 15 years. Kenya has always had development for the many years, but we never had to borrow that much. President Kibaki did a lot of development. He borrowed on return 1.2 trillion for 10 years. Where is the 1.2 trillion we are borrowing every year going? To make the matter worse, everything you see with your eyes happening in Kenya now, in terms of development, what you can see, for example, the expansion of this Keno Marwa Road, is not even part of the 12 trillion borrowed. Is another loan on the side called fuel levy securitization. Everything else you see in Kenya in terms of development, like even the Talanta Stadium, is also not part of the 12 trillion debt. That is another debt, securitization of the sports fund, where we borrowed 46 billion and will be paying 100 billion in interest after 15 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it, guys. Yeah. Frightening state of affairs. Frightening. Yeah.
That's why we're
So
being
basically,
sacked.
what
The
Dindi
saddest
Nyoro is
thing.
saying to us is that there is some sort of secret borrowing, kind of like underhand borrowing by the government, using this so-called new illegal. It should be not. It can't be legal because is it part of the constitution? Securitization. They say that it's done in other countries. Susan, we remember you telling us that they say it's done in other countries. Yes, but in this particular case, why would they? It's a sort of double taxation. Because you see, already we pay for fuel at the fuel pump, and then part of that fuel, what we're paying in terms of what is it? There's a percent that we pay in terms of taxes. And then that same money is borrowed by the government. I don't know how we pay. I really just don't know. I lost my train of thought there. Maybe Susan can understand. But I believe it's a double taxation of sorts. It's also a way to deny Kenyans the funding. It's a way to deny Kenyans funding from the taxation. Because you see, they take a percent of I think they take a percent of the money that we are paying from the because Susan talked about the fact that when the landing costs are worth half the value of the amount that we actually pay at the pump. The fuel price is literally double the price of the landing cost because it includes that much more tax. The tax is about 72% on top to 80% on top. So on top of that, the government is also using the same to borrow. It's also using that same as a sort of collateral to borrow money from the banks. So the banks are supposed to be paid by this fuel levy, the fuel taxes that we pay. a certain proportion of it that is taxes, the government is borrowing. I think something like up to 12% of the tax. 24. I think 24% is tax, and I don't know. The government is borrowing like half of that taxes collateral. I'm not really sure. I'm not very
20,
clear about it, but I know that they are literally using it as collateral. They're using the fuel as collateral to borrow from the banks. That means
yeah.
that means that the banks have to be sure that the fuel prices are going to remain the same for the next 7 years, which means, or even go higher, which means there's no opportunity for the government to bring down the cost of fuel for Kenyans should it go down in the global market. So we're stuck.
Yeah, that's
at
7
this.
shillings. Yeah,
Oh, thank you, Susan.
the 7 shillings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 7 shillings that's been securitized has to be there. So that will affect how low they can bring the taxes, how low the price of petrol can be. And we heard in that video, that earlier speech, that there are proposals for them to also securitize another 5 shillings from that, the amount of money they collect from petrol. So so the landed cost is less than the taxes we pay. So the taxes we pay are like 101%. They're a bit higher than the landed cost. Yeah, a bit higher. And then so it's difficult for we pay in Kenya. Our fuel costs are the highest in the region. Tanzania, Uganda, you just compare, they're paying much less for petrol than we are, and it's because of this tax element. And now that 7 shillings, now we know for sure it cannot go down because of it'd be difficult to lower the cost of fuel, because that 7 shillings has to be there. That 7 shillings that they're collecting has to be there. So
and they're threatening to increase it to 12, yeah? So in other words, soon it will be 12 shillings. That 12 shillings has to be there to guarantee
there was talk
the
of
banks.
Yeah, but it's not a good way of doing things. I think Dindinyoro, when he was talking about this particular device, the securitization thing, remember he said, ukisikia kizungu mingi, you should check very carefully. When they use big words, you should check and try to really understand what they're talking about. Saying that even the professionals in treasury and all that are not for it, because they know the ramifications and the implications of it. You don't just do things because other countries are doing them. It's like saying because people, the other country jumped into a hole and we're going to do the same thing. It's like these affordable housing projects. Historically, in other countries where they had these units that they were building for, housing units they were building for their population, some of them are deserted today. I understand in places like China, they build these units, right? People don't want to live in them. They are too small. They're not comfortable. They want to raise their families in in other places. So they're empty. So is our money, is people's money being collected for projects which are going to end up just being wasted things, where we'll have white elephants all over the place, empty buildings, because nobody's really very interested in, and don't forget Harambee Stars, when they won during they were promised affordable houses. The first promise from the president was, we'll give you, that they would get the house. Then the next time after that, he said, no, we'll pay 1 million, you pay the other million, and we'll help you to get loans where you will pay 2,000 or 3,000 shillings per month. So he changed what he told them in the first place and told them, now we'll help you secure loans. And the other big question is this: is whether they are really interested in that, whether they'd rather just have that 1 million shillings and go and build their home in shags, uh, for their moms or whatever. You know how young men are and their moms, they have to build their mother house. So maybe maybe they would rather have that 1,000 shillings and actually build a house rather than being compelled or being forced to invest in something they don't
That
really
1
want to
million
buy.
shillings, you mean, not 1,000.
And then being forced to take a
Yeah.
loan, yeah, which
Yeah.
they don't really want. And for instance, footballers, their income is not very secure. How many times have we seen them out saying, we have not been paid, we have not been paid, we have not been paid, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that was something that, an incentive, but I'm not sure that they were very happy to hear about that.
Yeah. Okay,
They
Susan,
thought
as
they were
we
getting a
wind up,
house.
we have like about
Yeah.
5 minutes before we wind up. Yeah, what would you like to give us as the final few things?
Maybe one thing we'll keep talking about is that um, we can see that our nation is already in like pre-election mode in terms of there's electioneering being done. People are preparing, trying to see. One of the things that Dindinyoro talked about is saying that you're going to see a lot of things happening, and they are borrowing money here and there, and they're trying to do projects here and there so that they can secure votes in the election. So that's that's why we're seeing all these sort of like somewhat haphazard and chaotic borrowing of money or securing of money. So for the young people, we're encouraging you guys to register to vote, because that's the only way you can be heard. We can see that the protests are one way to do it, but the most powerful way for you to have your voice heard is actually to register to vote. Also, the other thing is to be very clear about what it is you want or which position you want to take on something, because when you change your mind about things, the optics may not look good, and you're busy trying to persuade people that this is the way, this is why I've changed my mind. So there's a saying in our languages that says the second thought is always best. So don't always be in a rush to speak about something. Pause first, try to understand the situation before you commit yourself one way or the other. And we're really praying for these parents of the Hillside and Darasha Academy disaster, that they will find their justice, because this is 1 year on and they still have not, there's not even a case filed, nothing that has been done. And the last time they said that the state showed any interest in them was when they were burying these children. In fact, if you look at the Friday's Daily Nation, there's a picture of all those coffins, for people to see that, we're remembering that. And perhaps we can just, remember those families who lost these. And these are young children, young boys. They're all boys, by the way. Let's remember them. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Susan, so much. As usual, it's always a pleasure to hear from you and to hear you give us a summary of the news. Not very good news, really, but still, we should always keep hope alive. At least it's good that they are following up on the Enderasha fire. That was really super tragic. So many young children. And you know what's so strange is that we haven't heard much from their parents. Can you imagine that your child has been lost in a fire and you don't hear anything about those children? You don't see the media following up with the parents. You know, like in the UK here, when one child goes missing on a vacation, like all of us know about this, what is her name? Madeline McLean, I don't remember. Madeline or something. Everybody knows about that little child. And they keep that story alive for years and years and years. She disappeared when her parents went on holiday. I'm sure you guys know about it. But we lose so many tens of children, and we don't follow up, and we don't keep the story alive in the news. This is wrong. You know why? Because we are giving the impression to everybody else that the African life is not as valuable. And that's not true, because we know we value life, and especially the lives of our children. So, whatever the case, we must find a way to keep stories and narratives alive. Because these parents, we are the we are the voices, the mouthpieces of those who cannot speak for themselves. So it's the job of the media not to cower down. Okay, for the independent, if you consider yourself independent media, it's your job not just to follow up on the narratives, like, let's say, not just to talk to politicians, asking them tough questions, yeah? Not just talking to the deputy president, of the previous deputy president, and giving him a quick fire. We also want the quick fires about our children who are lost in the Enderasha fires. So, on that note, I just want to say, I hope you have a good evening. The people who are in Kenya, it's very late right now, past midnight. We want to wish you a good time. Thank you so much for staying with us. We will be editing this, and you'll be watching it over the week. So thank you very much. We'll probably be rolling out 2 or 3 videos this week, trying to catch up. And yeah, so thank you so much for your time, and wish you a good night. From Susan and I, it's Kwaheri ya kuonana. Bye. Kwaheri. Yeah. Bye.